David from the Big Lottery, and I'm sure he's got lots of wonderfully interesting things to tell us. Thanks very much, David.
I'll let you judge now. I realise that I'm the only thing standing between you guys and your lunch, so I promise you this will be quite brief. As Anne just said, I am David Foster. I'm a policy officer with the Big Lottery Fund, based in the North East region. I'm going to start off the presentation by giving a very brief overview of the Big Lottery Fund. We're the largest national lottery distributor, which means basically we get about 14 pence of every lottery ticket that you put on. It equates to quite a lot of money over the course of a year, because a lot of people pay the lottery. And we use that money to distribute it through a range of different funding programs. Okay, we don't have one front door or anything like that, we've got a few different ones. Our current program portfolio runs from 2006 to 2009, so we're coming to the end of it now, which is why if I'd spoke to you a couple of years back, I would have had a lot more programs to tell you about. There's only 4 at the moment. All our grant making work is delivered from the 2 grant making centres based in Birmingham and Newcastle. So any applications that come to us will go to one of those 2 centres. Those are the 4 programmes that I mentioned. Awards for All Reaching Communities, Young People's Fund and Changing Spaces. Notice the first 2 are ongoing. That's ongoing until 2009. Young People's Fund closes on the 16th of October, so there's not that much time left to get an application form into that one. And Changing Spaces has various dates, and I'll explain why later on. The minimum to apply to each one of those programs is that you need a constitution, a set of accounts and a bank account, which I would imagine most groups here have got at least those 3. And if you haven't, I'm sure people at Sunderland CVS will actually help you to set up a constitution and get a bank account and things. The first programme I want to talk about is Awards for All. You may have heard of it. It's the most popular programme that we actually run. It's also the smallest programme. It gives grants of between £300 and £10,000, and groups can apply for up to £10,000 over a 2-year period. That could be the full 10,000 all at once, so you could get £5,000 from us now and come back for £5,000 in 6 months' time, whatever's best for you. It's open to a range of different groups, so not-for-profit groups, which is where most of the applications come from, schools, parish and town councils, health bodies and social enterprises as well. It's actually not just Big Lottery Fund money that goes into Awards for All. It comes from all the different lottery distributors. So there's some Sport England money, some Arts Council money, and some Heritage Lottery Fund money that goes into that as well. And as a result, it's quite open and it can fund an awful lot of different projects. Any project that comes in must be completed within 12 months, and we'll give a decision within 2 months of receipt of a complete application form. And I stress complete because at least 70% of applications that we receive are incomplete. So make sure you read the guidance notes properly before you send your application form off to us. The next programme is called Reaching Communities, and it's kind of a step up from Awards for All. Funding starts at £10,001 and goes up to £500,000, although there's only a maximum of £50,000 for capital costs. It's open to voluntary community sector groups, schools, local authorities and social enterprises, and it has a 2-stage application process. So the first stage is quite straightforward. It's only about 10 pages long, but most of the questions on that application form are just things like your name, your date of birth, that sort of thing. We want to see an outline of your project in that first stage application. Following the receipt of that, we'll give you a decision within 15 working days, and that decision will either be an unlikely, which means that if you do put your full application in, you're unlikely to get a positive decision from us. The next decision you could get is a maybe, which is we'd like to hear something more from you about your project. And if you get a maybe, you will actually get a full application form from us, which requires quite a bit more work, and you've got 6 months to submit that. Okay? Funding for Reaching Communities is actually between 1 and 5 years as well. The next programme is Young People's Fund 2. This is the one that closes on the 16th of October. It's very similar to Reaching Communities, however it's specifically targeted at young people. Any young people's applications that go into Reaching Communities will be diverted to Young People's Fund. Again, it's a two-stage process, and it funds up to £500,000 for projects of between 1 and 5 years. And again, it's mainly revenue funding, so only up to £50,000 for capital costs if it's necessary. It'll fund new, existing and core work, and that's the same with Reaching Communities. The Awards for All programme that I mentioned at the start will only fund new activities. Okay, so if you're a small group and you meet on a Monday night and you want to come to us maybe to continue the funding for that Monday night meeting, Awards for All wouldn't fund that, whereas some of the larger grants would. The final thing to mention for Young People's Fund is any projects that come to that must take place outside of school hours. So that could be in school holidays, or it could be at weekends, or it could be evenings. The final programme I want to mention is Big Lottery Fund's environment investment. It's £200 million in total across England. Because none of the grants officers in Birmingham and Newcastle, none of them are really environmental experts. So what we've done is we've contracted out this particular grant scheme to 5 different award partners. And they've each designed and they're going to deliver their own programme. The first award partner is called Building Research Establishments. And they've got a renewable energy scheme, which basically means that if you are responsible for a church hall or a community building, you could potentially apply to them for things like solar panels or wind power generators, that sort of thing, to help cut your carbon footprint. Groundwork UK, who I'm sure you've all heard of, are running the community spaces scheme, and that is to help transform green spaces, things like village greens, a spot of land in your town centre, that sort of thing. So you could apply to them for that. The Royal Society of Wildlife Trusts are running a local food scheme, which is about getting people interested in growing their own food at allotments or taking part in box schemes, that sort of thing. Natural England are running an Access to Nature programme, which is about helping people who don't know much about the environment or wildlife, primarily people in inner city areas, to actually find out about it. And finally, the mental health charity